Hey mama, I polled my 415,000 followers and asked them, what type of birth class do you want? And they told me we want something simple that we can listen to on the go, whether you're nesting, you're walking, or just trying to rest. So I created the Calm Labor Birth Pod. It is my audio-only birth class designed for real life. So if you're pregnant, you're overwhelmed by all the what ifs, you don't need to Google. You just need calm, evidence-based guidance from a labor nurse. You can listen on the go. It's $97, or you can start today for just $33. Go to labornursemama.com/guide or hit the link in the show notes to grab it. I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 16 years, and I've delivered over 1,000 babies. But here's what's going to shock you. What I do and what other labor nurses do during their first trimester is completely different from what I hear my patients doing. And girl, I'm about to spill all 7 secrets that could literally change your entire birth experience. Now, before you think this is just another pregnancy podcast, let me tell you something. One of my students followed just 3 of these strategies and went from being told she needed a C-section to having a 4-hour natural birth. Most don't see results that dramatic, but it shows you the power of the smart choices you can make inside your first trimester that I'm about to share with you. Whether you're 6 weeks pregnant or 12 weeks, whether this is baby number 1 or baby number 7, these 7 things will work for you. And don't worry if you feel like you're already behind. I'm going to teach you exactly how to catch up, even if you're at the end of your first trimester. But here's the thing. Secret number 7 is so controversial that most doctors would never tell you this. And it's the one thing that could prevent you from needing interventions during your birth. So make sure you stick around into the end, because that's where I'm going to blow your mind. Listen, mama, my name is Trish, and I'm not your typical labor nurse. And if you're new here to the podcast, we are so happy you're here. In honor of our 200th episode this week, we are going to do something special. We're going to go through the next week. Whoever leaves a review on this episode and tells us how much they love it and what they want to hear more of, we're going to pick one lucky winner who's going to get $200 gift card to Amazon. So make sure you leave a review, then send us an email to info@labornursemama.com with your information and tell us that you left a review with your username, and one of you guys will get a $200 gift card. So after 16 years in the delivery room and having 6 babies of my own, I got pissed off of seeing scared, unprepared moms walking into birth blind and being coerced and bullied into decisions. So that's why I created the birth education I wish I had and every other mom had. Here's what we're going to cover today. 7 specific things that I do during my first trimesters that are completely different from the standard advice. You're going to understand why your first trimester isn't just about surviving morning sickness. It's about setting yourself up for the birth of your dreams. But first, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button right now, because I drop new birth education content every single week, twice a week, that could literally save you from unnecessary interventions. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single episode. Secret number 1 is going to sound crazy, but I start working on my birth plan at 8 weeks pregnant. This is why you have to be educated. Not at 36 weeks like most moms, not at 20 weeks, but at 8 weeks. And here's why this matters. Your birth plan isn't just a piece of paper you hand to your nurse or your doctor. It is your map for making informed decisions throughout your entire pregnancy, because those early ones affect the late ones. When I start this early, I'm not just thinking about Labor Day. I'm thinking about every prenatal appointment, every test, every conversation, every decision that's going to come up. One of my students, Sarah, started her birth plan at 9 weeks. She came to us inside the membership before she even got pregnant, starts her birth plan at 9 weeks. And by the time she hit her 20-week anatomy scan, because she had attended our pregnancy happy hours and created her birth plan, she already knew exactly which questions to ask about her baby's position, which intervention she wanted to avoid, and how to advocate for herself. And there was none of that big baby bullshit. Now, not everyone will have the same experience as Sarah. She ended up having exactly the birth she planned for. And throughout her pregnancy, she knew what to look for and what to ask, which is power. Most moms wait until the 3rd trimester to think about their birth plan. And by then, they've already made dozens of decisions without even realizing it. They've agreed to routine procedures because that's what we do. They've accepted standard protocols thinking that's the only choice they have. And they missed little baby step opportunities to set themselves up for success. But here's what I do differently. I use my 1st trimester to research my provider, understand my hospital policies, look at the stats, and start having conversations about what I want, not what they want. This isn't about being difficult. It's about you being prepared. Secret number 2, I interview my provider like I'm hiring them for the most important job in the world, because I am. You are. Most women choose their OB or midwife based on convenience, like which hospital are they going to? Is it close to my house? Are they covered by my insurance? And who did my bestie recommend? But girl, this person is going to make huge decisions about your body and your baby during the most vulnerable moment of your life. During my 1st trimester appointments, I ask the hard questions, and I tell my students and my mama members in my membership early and often. Start asking them early and often. What's your C-section rate? How do you feel about birth plans? What's your policy on delayed cord clamping? How long can I push before you're going to start suggesting interventions? I never use the word let, though. Don't ask them, what will you let me do? Because you have the power. I had a student who switched providers at 10 weeks because her original OB told her at that early appointment that birth plans were cute, but unrealistic. You don't really need it. Don't listen to anyone. You don't need it. She found a midwife who supported her vision, and she ended up having an incredible unmedicated birth because that's what she wanted. Now, switching providers isn't always possible for everyone, but asking these questions early gives you time to formulate a plan and to make changes if you need to. Here's the thing most moms don't realize. Your provider's philosophy about birth, their attitude, will shape your entire experience. If they see this as a medical emergency waiting to happen, that's how they'll treat you. If they see birth as the natural process that it is, that occasionally needs support. So thank God for the interventions when they're needed, but that's a completely different experience. The 1st trimester is your window to find the right fit, not just medically, but also emotionally and mentally. And are they in alignment with who you are? If you don't jive, girl, you're going to be spending a lot of time with this provider, and they're going to be at your most important event. They should be an addition, not a subtraction. Secret number 3 is going to surprise you. I start preparing my body for birth at 6 weeks pregnant. Not in the 3rd trimester, like most birth classes teach. Now, I'm not talking about doing some crazy workout or anything dangerous. You can continue doing what you've been doing, but I'm talking about gentle, intentional movement that's going to set me up for an easier birth. The biggest thing I do, and I recommend this to all of you, sitting in a deep squat every single day. I start with just about 30 to 60 seconds and I work my way up to about 30 minutes. My mama, who is from Kentucky, has told me a lot of weird old wives' tales, but one of the most powerful things she told me, and she hit the nail on the head, was to do everything squatting. Watch TV squatting, mop the floor with a rag squatting, fold laundry squatting, scroll Instagram squatting. And you know what? I tell my students the same thing because she was completely right. And my first pushing experience was so much better because of it. And I've seen thousands of births, so I know this for a fact. One of my students started doing daily squats at 8 weeks pregnant. By the time she went into labor, she pushed for only 20 minutes with her first baby. Now, obviously, that's not always the case. Most first-time moms push for 1 to 3 hours, but it shows what's possible when you prepare early, and it prepares your perineum so you're less likely to tear, which I know all of y'all are worried about. I also start with a pelvic floor work immediately, not Kegels. Those can actually make things worse. I'm talking about learning how to relax and release my pelvic floor muscles because that's what's needed to do during birth. Most women spend their entire pregnancy doing nothing that is actually effective to prepare their body for birth. Then they freak out because labor is so hard. It's like you're going to do a marathon in 40 weeks, but you sit on your couch for the entire time. But here's what people don't tell you. The way you move your body during pregnancy directly affects how your baby positions themselves for birth. This is why we have our standalone class, Purposeful Positioning. And baby's position is everything when it comes to having an easy labor, and how you move your body, how you even sit and stand and walk can affect baby's position throughout your pregnancy and either help you have a better or harder labor. Secret number 4 is controversial, but I refuse routine procedures that don't actually serve me or my baby or are not in alignment with what I want. So starting in my first trimester, I have conversations about which tests and procedures are truly necessary versus which ones are just routine. I ask questions. I do research. For example, I don't automatically agree to cervical exams starting at 36 weeks. Why? Because dilation before labor doesn't mean a darn thing. And I've had students who were told they were closed tight as Fort Knox at 37 weeks and then went into labor the next week. Or I've had students who've heard the same thing and went into labor a few hours later and had their baby by morning. I've had others who walked around at 6 centimeters for weeks, driving themselves crazy thinking labor's coming any moment, it's imminent. So here's my rule. Nothing out of convenience or curiosity, except mine. If I want to know, that's different. If my provider wants to do something, I ask 3 questions. Is this necessary for my health or my baby's health? What happens if we wait? And what are the risks and benefit of doing it and not doing it? One of my students questioned a routine induction recommendation at 39 weeks. Her provider literally couldn't give her a medical reason beyond the ARRIVE trial study, and I'll do an episode on that. And this provider couldn't say, well, that's what we usually do based on the ARRIVE study. No, she waited and went into labor naturally at 40 weeks and 2 days and had a beautiful birth. Now, not everyone should wait. Sometimes inductions are medically necessary, but asking questions, being educated, knowing what you need to know at every step of the way throughout the entire pregnancy. This is why my birth classes start at the beginning. Because asking questions is always your right and it's always appropriate. The first trimester is when I establish this pattern of I'm not that patient who's just going to be like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever you want. I start a pattern of informed consent and I let my provider know that I'm going to be asking questions and that I want to understand the why behind their recommendations, not just like, hey, this is what we're doing now. And I'm like, yes, okay. I want them to know that I expect to be treated as a partner in my care because I hired you. I'm not a passive bystander in my own pregnancy and birth. Secret number 5, girl. I start building my support team in the first trimester. And I don't just mean choosing a partner to be in the room with me. I'm talking about assembling a team of people who understand my vision for birth and will support me in achieving it. This also includes my provider, but it also includes if I'm going to have a doula or a bestie, my childbirth educator, my pelvic floor therapist, and even my family members. Here's what most people don't realize. Your partner needs just as much education as you do. They're going to be your advocate when you're in labor and can't think clearly. Now, for me, my partner was just not that person. And some of you guys know our story. So it had to be someone who I know who would be in there actively supporting me emotionally and physically. But if they don't understand your wishes or don't know how to support you, they can't do their job effectively. They'll be over on the couch scrolling like you see on Instagram. I had a student whose husband was initially skeptical about her birth plan at a birth center. She got him involved early. He came to some of our partner hangouts and she had him go to the appointments and she educated him about her choices. And throughout her pregnancy, he watched her asking questions and not agreeing to everything. So by the time they went into her birth, by the time she went into labor, he was her fiercest advocate and wasn't over there thinking, oh my gosh, we need to listen to the doctor because the doctor knows best. So when the doctor suggested an unnecessary intervention, her husband already knew when that intervention was necessary because he knew everything I know. And he was the one who asked the right questions and helped her make an informed decision. I also recommend that you start interviewing doulas in your first trimester. A good doula isn't just someone who shows up for your birth. They're your guide throughout pregnancy and you need to actually connect with them. So I recommend you meet them in person over coffee, nothing stressful. They're going to be helping you navigate decisions and preparing for your birth. But here's the secret most people miss. You need to prepare your entire support system, not just your birth team. And when it comes to a doula, I know a lot of you guys cannot afford a doula. Some of you, your insurance covers them, but some of you have to come out of pocket. This is why we have our labor bat signal, because we want you to be supported by the entire team. That also means having conversations with family members about your choices, setting boundaries about unsolicited advice, because that gets real, and making sure everyone understands their role. Secret number 6 is the most important one, and it's something that most moms completely ignore. I work on my mindset from day 1 of pregnancy, because here's the truth. Birth is 90% mental. Your mindset going into labor will determine your experience more than any other factor. If you're terrified, your body will respond with tension and fear. If you're confident and you're prepared, your body will work with you, not against you. So starting in my first trimester, I do daily affirmations, I pray, I read my Bible, I visualize my ideal birth. I practice breathing techniques. I work on releasing fear and building confidence. And all of that can help you whether you're stressed at work, you're in your doctor's appointment, but it will all work to build a better birth. One of my students was absolutely terrified of birth after hearing horror stories from all the ladies at work, her friends, and her family. So we began to work on her mindset throughout her pregnancy. And by the time she went into labor, she was so stinking excited. At the beginning of pregnancy, she was getting a planned C-section. That was her goal. She wasn't scared though by the end of pregnancy, and she went to 41 weeks and 3 days, and she had a beautiful, unmedicated, empowering birth that she describes as the best day of her life. But here's what's really important. You cannot wait until you're in labor, when those contractions start, to work on your mindset. Fear and anxiety that build up over the entire pregnancy don't just disappear in the delivery room. So I teach my students to replace every negative birth story, we call it flipping the script, and replace it with a positive one. For every birth is the worst pain you'll ever experience, I want them to hear birth is the most powerful thing you'll ever do. The first trimester is when you set the foundation for how you're going to think about birth for the rest of your pregnancy. And now for secret number 7, the one that's going to blow your mind. I start planning for postpartum recovery at 8 weeks pregnant. This is the secret that most doctors will never tell you because they're so focused on getting you through your pregnancy and birth and not what happens after. But here's the truth. Your postpartum recovery can make or break your entire experience. And I'm not just talking about buying newborn clothes and setting up a nursery. I'm talking about preparing for the physical, emotional, and mental challenges of the 4th trimester. In my first trimester, I start researching postpartum support. I line up help for the first few weeks. I prepare my home for recovery. I start in the beginning buying supplies every single week. So I stock up on supplies that will help my family, but also help me heal. Because if my home is ready, I am going to heal better because I won't overthink. I also start thinking about my breastfeeding experience, if that's how I prefer to feed, or if you're thinking about bottle feeding and what support I'll need for that. One of my students spent her entire pregnancy focused on birth. And even though we encouraged her to think about postpartum, she didn't do it until after baby arrived. And she ended up with severe postpartum depression. Now, she did come to our postpartum hangouts, but she would share how she was struggling with breastfeeding because she wasn't prepared. She didn't have an IBCLC lined up. And I recommend you see one before you have babies. And I have some recommendations. Now, everyone won't have that experience, but being prepared is never a mistake. And preparation makes a huge difference. But here's what most people don't realize. A difficult postpartum recovery can overshadow even the most beautiful birth. But when you're prepared, when you have support in place, when you know what to expect, you can actually enjoy those precious early weeks with your baby instead of having to do all the things and worry about all the things that weren't ready. The first trimester is the perfect time to start planning this because, girl, hopefully you have the energy and mental clarity that you might not later in pregnancy. Okay, Mama, I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I want you to remember your body was made for this baby, and this baby was made for your body. You've got this, and I'm here with you every step of the way. As always, hit subscribe, leave a review, and I will see you again next Friday. Bye for now.